Like many industries across the United States, the modular home industry needs an enema.
This town needs an enema.
And I don't say this lightly. There are things that are going on, some dirty little secrets that need to be exposed so you as the public understand what you're buying when you're buying a modular home today. Because the verbiage in the building code, all these lines have been completely blurred. But you don't even have to take my word for it. I was very fortunate enough to get an interview with Tom Hardiman, a thought leader when it comes to modular home construction, modular home building code, and modular home design.
My name's Tom Hardiman. I am the executive director of a national nonprofit trade association called the Modular Home Builders Association. And as that name implies, we represent builders and manufacturers of single-family modular homes.
The manufactured home industry and the modular home industry seem like they should be in the same lines when it comes to building code, but they're built to two different standards. And this is where the public gets totally confused on what they're purchasing. I asked Tom to explain that to us because it seems to be like the dirty little secret that when you go onto some of these sales lots, they try to make it sound like it is a modular home, but it's not really a modular home because it's built a different building code. I don't like what they're doing. And it's not the modular home company's fault, by the way.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for 20 years, and that always still seems to be some confusion around it. And frankly, I think our industry hasn't helped much. A modular home, if you think of it more in terms of a process, a modular construction process, instead of a product. It's not a noun. It's not a modular. Oh, I got a new modular. A new modular what? The biggest difference is the code that the modular home is built to versus the manufactured housing unit. The modular home has to meet the same building codes as any local traditional builder would build on site, which is typically the IRC, International Residential Code. A manufactured home is built under the federal HUD standards, Housing and Urban Development Standards. So it's the national preemptive code, and its intent was really more for housing affordability. So modular homes equals local codes, manufactured home is HUD code, national code. Both will have a little label. So if it says HUD somewhere in your electrical panel or in your closet, that's a manufactured home.
I have a belief, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that there should be some more restrictions with the usage of the word modular. Everybody seems to be using it because it seems to be the cool fad thing. They're causing confusion in the public with using words like cross-mod or prefab or even SIPs. I propose there needs to be more regulations with that specific term of modular. But I asked Tom about it because I wanted to get his opinion on it, because I always get various things. Most people don't like regulations, and especially home builders, but I think there needs to be regulations on this. That's just my personal view.
I was quite upset when the HUD code manufactured industry came out with the term cross-mod, because having seen their marketing materials and how they arrived at it, they surveyed potential buyers, and when they said manufactured home, it had 11% favorability. But when they used the word modular or cross-mod, it made people think of modular or modern, and the favorability went up to somewhere in the 40s. So it was intentionally, in my opinion, intended to try to make people think it's not a manufactured home, it's a modern or modular home. Really did not do any favors to help educate the public, because like you say, someone may think they're getting a modular home, and then they go to resell it, and suddenly maybe the value hasn't gone up, it's gone down. That's the challenge we're facing as the modular home industry, is the water's getting pretty muddy, and we're trying to say there's different products or processes out there for the customer, and you really need to know the difference, because it's going to impact financing, resale, appraised value, pretty much everything.
Do you believe that there should be more restrictions, or at least maybe some more education to the public on the difference of modular homes and these muddied waters of using words like cross-mod or even prefab? There's so many different labels to these homes now that people are very confused on what they're actually looking at. Do you think that there should be more regulations on that?
Manufactured housing is a great product. It was intended for affordable housing. We need it. We have a huge affordable housing crisis. I think it's perfectly fine for what it was intended to do, but I'm not a big fan of what I think is, again, confusing the public, a different term. There should be very clear disclosures if you're purchasing anything built to a HUD code versus the local building code. I think we're, kidding ourselves if we expect customers just to go through and read the code books and understand the differences. This is just not going to happen, but it needs to be clear, this is built to the federal HUD standard. This is built to the local IRC. We're regulated at the state level. 40 states have a statewide modular program, and I'm doing this because some states call us industrialized buildings. Some call us modular. Massachusetts, to really confuse things, calls our industry the manufactured buildings industry. And it's like, it's no wonder people are confused. We worked with the International Code Council a couple of years ago to develop industry standards. And in those industry standards, there's industry standard definitions. All we need now is more states to adopt those standards. But yeah, it can be very confusing. When we say modular, we're referring to volumetric modular construction, boxes. Think of boxes or Legos, if you will.
Right.
Versus a panelized system, a two-dimensional panelized system, or a tiny home. Yeah, the code is kind of where it all sorts out. What building code is this constructed to?
I just want to give you an example of some of the things that I've seen on the internet that's used the word modular. I've seen 3D printed homes that could be built to modular, apparently. I've seen SIPS construction, which is structural insulated panels that are connected together. They say those are modular. I've seen tiny homes that they said were modular, but they were built to PMRV code, but they said they were modular. And I've also seen, of course, the cross mods. I've seen dome homes that were considered modular. That's why I put in my trepidation when it comes to using the word modular, and why I think that a lot of these companies are doing it on purpose to deceive the public on the type of product that they're actually making. Not all modular home companies are the same. I just want to put that out there. There are many, many, many reputable modular home companies, but the ones that are not the ones that are advertising those cross mods, by the way.
Modular was not a good word 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And we've really, busted our butt to try to improve the image of the industry with a lot of marketing and outreach and great buildings. And now that it's kind of, oh, that's a sexy term, let's lump everything under modular. And it's like, oh, come on, guys.
Have you ever seen the show This Old House?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I think they helped with the word modular. I really do, because they did some houses on that show that were modular construction. But as the advertising has come out, like you said, it's the new trendy, sexy word is modular.
I guess.
And they add it to everything. So do you think that in the future there will be some more regulations? You had said if somebody in the audience or anybody watching would want to have these regulations for their state, how could they propose it to somebody in their state?
Great question. Not your congressman. This is more of a state by state level issue.
Right.
Construction generally is regulated, closer to home, local, state, federal. These standards are intended to really lay out the process for how do you inspect and approve a modular building when it's not being built on site. The local code official is used to coming on the site, looking at the electrical, looking at the plumbing. Well, we're building in a factory somewhere else, so there's got to be an inspection process. What we're trying to do is make that consistent state by state. Manufacturers that are building for 5 states have to have 5 sets of rules that they follow, depending on where they build. It's you could go to your governor's office, but honestly, he or she might be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Do we have a modular program? It's typically 3 or 4 levels down in the org chart at the state level, and it's usually understaffed. But this standard, if they would adopt it, allows each state to kind of leverage independent third-party inspection agencies. If you're understaffed, you can outsource that stuff. Let an engineer inspect the buildings in our factories. Let your staff just review and approve the engineer's work instead of looking at all these sets of plans. So take it to your state. Your local building code official may not, they enforce the rules and codes as they're written. They're generally not going to lobby for different rules. Go to your governor. Let's see what happens. If the governor makes the call to the housing department, then maybe something will happen.
I just interviewed somebody recently who bought a home, and what they were told at the sales office and what they actually got ended up being that is not the house that he got. And it wasn't anything that they said. So now he's in the process of trying to remedy all these issues that he's had with his home. But it was a lot of misunderstanding and knowing that he didn't know.
And that's bad for the whole industry. our part, and we're a small trade association, we're trying to do our best to educate end users. We have a free buyer's guide on our website that, it asks those basic questions. Ask your builder, what code is this built to? Is this a HUD code or IRC? And if they stumble on that one, find a new builder.
I don't know if you've seen like some of the initiatives for more affordable housing. One of the proposals is basically taking the chassis off a HUD manufactured house to make it more look like a house for neighborhoods. So they could basically put just manufactured homes, but in a traditional neighborhood style. Do you think this is something that could work to help solve the affordability crisis here in the United States? Or do you think that is degrading the actual product of the house itself?
I think it's a genius move by the manufactured housing industry. What they're trying to do is change the HUD code standards to say, we have to have this steel chassis underneath for transporting it, but then we end up taking, we could take that off and save money. Except what they're forgetting is if you take that steel chassis off, now you have to site build a foundation just like we do, which adds a whole lot of extra cost, another contractor. In my mind, if I were being skeptical, I'd say they're trying to do this to have one national standard so they don't have to go through 40 state codes and follow the building codes. They get one preemptive standard and they're building an almost modular home. It looks like a modular home, but it's still built to the HUD standard. I think it's intentionally designed to confuse the public.
As you know, I agree with him. It is meant to confuse the public. Another thing, though, I was really concerned with is if you take off the chassis off of these mobile trailer homes, is that going to ruin the integrity of the house itself? Does it change the actual safety standards of this house once you cut it off? Because it didn't make sense to me if they were going to cut off the chassis. That's the whole base of the freaking house in the first place.
Well, you would obviously have to replace that steel chassis with probably more wood in the factory like we do. So if you took that steel chassis off, you would probably have to add more framing to the module, in which case just build a modular home. I could see this cost savings on the steel chassis, but again, now someone has to, build a permanent foundation on site for that. And that's not cheap.
No. Are they going to tell these people like what the specifications of the foundation needs to be before they put the house on there? How do they roll that into a loan? Like, how are they planning on doing this?
If I were a customer, I wouldn't want to go talk directly to the manufacturer because the manufacturer is going to say, here's the cost coming out of my factory,
right?
X dollars per square foot. Wow, that's great. That doesn't include any site work, any hookups, any utilities, any foundations. You find a good builder that understands both processes, that has done, let me see some examples of some modular homes you've built. And if they've done any, they should be easy. Here's my website, here's my portfolio. Because it's different. It's a little different than the conventional site builder, and it's a little different than manufactured housing. You need a good builder. And we've got a big list of them on our website.
What you're saying is absolutely true because the man I was talking to about the home that he purchased, the home itself has its own little variety of issues, but the people that installed it caused a lot of the problems with his home. The builders themselves, once they were putting it together, was the biggest issue. And then once they put it there, he was not allowed to walk into the house. He was not allowed to go into that house whatsoever until he signed all the paperwork that it had been completed. Then they did his welcome home after he signed. And there was a litany of issues.
Not good. It's just poor customer service, first of all. And then no doubt the whoever did the foundation is going to blame the modular manufacturer for making the mods the wrong size. And the fingers start getting pointed. Not scenario where you want to be. Ask a ton of questions up front, even if you drive them crazy. Get all those questions answered.
We have a lot of issues when it comes to affordability, and it's been spanning for many, many years. It isn't something new that just happened because of the pandemic. I've been talking about this issue since 2017. It's just that nobody really heard me until the pandemic started. I asked Tom what he thinks that the issue is and why we don't have enough affordable homes right now.
Builders aren't building smaller starter homes anymore. It's enough of a headache to build a home. You might as well build a bigger one and make more money than, a 1,200 square foot home, unless you're building a whole development of them. Where I see some of our members, we have developers that are building neighborhoods of smaller modular homes, but there's 20 or 30 of them and they build them to rent. So it's kind of filling a gap there. I think it's You can get a modular home. You don't have to buy it. You can rent it. It's smaller. It's affordable.
I'm not a big fan of build to rent because of the fact that they know that there's an affordability crisis and they
Right.
know there haven't been building any. So they don't have an opportunity. People don't have an opportunity to own, but you're going to fill up that land with build to rent. You've taken an opportunity from younger people building abilities.
I'm all for let's build a whole lot more affordable housing.
And most people that I talk to that are in the age that we would have bought houses when we were kids,
Mhm.
think that they'll never be able to afford it. And all they say is, I just want a simple little house. They are starving to have that. And the only thing we're saying to them is, well, you can rent this over here. The little house that you want, the dream that you want. Oh, you can just rent it. That's
Yeah.
gross to me. I mean, I could be completely wrong.
Every year we fall further and further behind in the number of houses we need to build, which is why, at some point we're saying we have less skilled labor now. We have more housing demands. We cannot keep building the same way we've always built, modular or otherwise. We have to industrialize our construction process to a much greater degree.
But your industry, the modular home industry, could make a bigger dent into it
Absolutely.
if more
Absolutely.
people adopted it. Because I was at Westchester Modular a couple months ago,
Mhm.
and they could build a whole 2-story house in 6 days.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they could be built in 6 days. You can't build a site-built home in 6 days, but you can in a modular home factory.
And that's the relatively smaller factory. I was in Japan in January, and you talk about people that know how to build housing. They have the manufacturing mentality to everything. They're building thousands of homes a year out of one factory, like 10,000 homes a year out of one factory. And it's a system, it's a process, it's not a ton of customization, but here in America, we like our homes to be works of art sometimes. So everyone has to be unique, but not there. It's pretty cookie cutter.
I will contest because there is a lot of negative connotation when it comes to younger people. Like most of the younger people, they really just want a simple home that they can call their own. I just really think that there is an untapped market that can really help people. And I think that the modular home industry could really fill in that gap that we really need here in the United States. I just don't understand why this is not something that is more talked about as a solution to the affordability crisis.
I think it's getting there. I think it's just the total lack of education. It's at the federal level. I know there is a movement, but my understanding is through HUD, which is we're back to HUD.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything that gets funded through HUD is a manufactured home. They have other programs, multifamily programs that are conventionally built. So they're going to put more money in some of those other programs and clearly identify modular, manufactured. So maybe there will be more federal money pushed to the states, but a lot of it really, frankly, is just education and outreach to all the different players involved in construction.
You mentioned earlier that I think you said Japan makes very good modular homes. It's, pretty common there. I know that a lot of Scandinavian countries and especially around Canada as well, it's totally fine. Like nobody thinks of a modular home as a negative. Why do you think here in the United States, people have this weird, obsession that modular is not a good product?
Because they don't have a manufactured housing industry in Japan or Sweden or Canada. People have never equated that with trailer. And that seems to be where we're stuck here is, oh, you mean, if I can't tell you how many, modular building, oh, you mean trailers? No. But that's the first image that pops in their head. But they did not have this other division or classification of housing that was perceived as lesser than. The biggest challenge for us really is overcoming status quo. It's hard to convince a 50-year-old contractor to change the way they're building after they've been doing it a certain way for 30 years. So status quo is the biggest impediment in the US to our industry growth. Organized labor does not particularly like the way we build because it's not separated by trades like the way they like it. It's in a factory, in an assembly line, working in teams.
But then you don't have the hassle of making sure that team shows up. I don't know how many times I'm a real estate agent and I have worked with builders for the last 14 years. And they'll say, oh, our roofers, quit on us. We don't know where they're at. They have it happen all the time. Do you think that maybe some of that, since the government's throwing money around for affordable housing, if maybe retraining or offering builders an incentive, tax incentive to use modular construction instead of traditional construction, that could change the minds to get more affordable housing on the market?
Yeah, and it may take something like the federal government getting behind it and look, let's start a pilot program. Oh, I don't know, let's throw 10 billion in because that's nothing these days. My goal would be give every state $2 billion to figure out their housing problem. Let them use all the options they want. Let them recruit modular factories to their state, manufacture tiny homes. Let's do it all. But the plan just seems to be, let's put more money into the low income tax credit program. And it's like, nobody's, this is not working. The state of Virginia did something pretty interesting. So they gave innovation credits, kind of extra credits. If you build this in an innovative way, and they defined it as faster or cheaper, basically, you get extra points. So modular, it's faster. You got an extra point. That might move you from the cut lists to getting funded. So it's not giving, a set aside for modular, but it's incentivizing it to some small degree without saying the word modular. It doesn't have to be modular, but we're pretty good at that. So we could take advantage of those incentives and come out pretty well in those cases.
Oh, I have some good news for you. Tom is actually holding a conference for modular home builders. I'm actually going to be there. It's going to be.
So this is the National Modular Housing Conference in Pittsburgh. It's October 28th through 30th. We are at the Landing Hotel and Casino, which is about a 5-minute walk from Acrisure Stadium where the Steelers play. So it should be exciting. If you're a Steelers fan or a New York Giants fan and you like modular, come to our show in Pittsburgh, October 28th through 30th. It's a couple-day conference. We'll have case studies. We'll have builders, manufacturers, developers, architects. Sharing best practices is really what it's about. A lot of the material suppliers are there introducing their new products or their new lines. So it's really just an opportunity to have these kind of conversations. Let's hash out the issues in the industry. What are we going to do about it? What are the trends? Things like that.
I'm going to be there.
That's going to be the best panel because there's going to be some HUD code manufacturers in the room. So
they don't like me. You know why they don't like me? They don't like me because I tell people don't use the lender that they have on the lots. Which
is why they make a lot of their money.
So they loved me because I used to say all the great things about manufactured housing as an affordable option. But then as soon as I started saying don't use the lender, then they were like, it was like crickets. I couldn't get them to pick up the phone after that.
I'm not disparaging manufactured housing against affordable housing. It's great. We need it. I'm just not crazy about the marketing tactics.
Yeah, I know you're not a fan of regulation, but I think that the word of modular shouldn't be used the way that it's being used. And I think there should be some rules that are set aside that say, if you're not at least the minimum of this, you cannot use that word. I think that there should be fines attached to using the word modular.
It's, the word modular is not anywhere in the building codes yet. We're working with ICC. We're going to put it in there in the next code cycle. But
where can people find you if they want to talk to you about any of this?
Well, modularhome.org is our website. And we're a nonprofit trade association. There's a good buyer's guide on there. They can download that and check it out. They can email me, tom@modularhome.org. Or if they're in the Charlottesville, Virginia area, stop on in and see me in person.
I still believe that modular home construction is a big puzzle piece that could solve the affordability crisis in the United States. The dirty little secret the manufactured home industry has been doing.
Everybody's dirty little secrets.
By muddying the waters of the word modular has made the public confused. It's even made some home builders confused. It's made real estate agents confused. It's made lenders confused. And we have a bigger issue on our hands. But you let me know in the comment section if you agree with me. Do you think that there should be some kind of regulation and standard when it comes to using the word modular? Or am I just being ridiculous? I don't think I am, but everybody's got an opinion and I want to hear yours. To watch more videos about modular home construction and how it's done here in the United States, you're going to want to watch these videos right here. My name is Kristina Smallhorn, your real estate whisperer, and I tell you all this because good real estate information matters.